you're running away from something, from problems at home, trouble at home, divorce, financial issues, etc., etc., etc. And if that country is in a way exotic and the rule of law from your home country cannot get you there, that's even better. That might be the case, but it usually is a mix of factors and a mix of issues.
A British citizen has been killed fighting in Ukraine. He was fighting for Russia. Bradley Townsend, a 33-year-old from Yorkshire, is believed to be the first British person to die fighting for the Russian side in the war. There are no official figures on how many Britons have gone to fight in that war, and no reports on Bradley Townsend's own motivations. But we do know there are more foreign fighters who have volunteered. So what makes someone sign up to risk their life for President Putin and his forces? Kacper Rekawek, a senior research fellow at the International Centre for Counter-Terrorism, joins me to explain this perplexing story. So what do you think could be the motivation to someone to go and fight to die for the Russian side in the Ukrainian war?
Daniel, I think there are two main motivations. So one is I want to go somewhere to find a new meaning in life. And there's a big cause, and obviously a war, an international conflict that captivates attention of the whole world, at least for a short period in 2022. Definitely that's a cause to be aligned with. That's A. And B, you're running away from something, from problems at home, trouble at home, divorce, financial issues, etc., etc., etc. And if that country is in a way exotic and the rule of law from your home country cannot get you there, that's even better. That might be the case, but it usually is a mix of factors and a mix of issues. And I suspect this had been the case in this situation.
We heard about an Irishman, Mark McCain, who died in 2022 fighting for Russia. Do you know more about his story?
I think he was one of the early fighters who went there in 2014. So, Daniel, we have to differentiate between different, let's say, classes. And it appears that the British fighter was a new addition to Putin's lineup, if I could put it this way, whereas the Irish one had been there for ages, had been there from 2014. The funny, inverted commas thing is that even being a veteran will not shield you from the Russia's meat grinder. I must stress this. It's a health issue, not because the Ukrainians might kill you in this war, and they will certainly try to do that. But it's a health issue because you're siding with the Russians. You usually know nothing about the lay of the land. You don't speak the language. These fighters who arrive on the Russian side, they don't know the language. They don't know the Cyrillic alphabet. They have very few contacts in Russia. And proverbially, their krisha is a roof in Russian. So their patron might be someone who's weak. And there might be someone who actually has a better krisha and might go after you to get your money, to get your gun, or to simply exploit you in one way or another. And things like that happened for such fighters who arrived as early as 2014. And then when 2022 happens, they cross someone, or someone thinks they crossed them, and then they end up dead. That was the case of one of the American fighters. The Irish one was there, had been there since 2014, apparently a good fighter, nicknamed the Irishman, yet he still perished in 2022.
So, is there an attempt to groom such people? Obviously, we've had other foreign wars in which people have been groomed to take part or to join the war effort in some way, both men and women, both boys and girls actually as well. So, in other words, people who were not even adults. Is there an effort to encourage these people, or is it much more spontaneous than that? And it's actually quite difficult to learn where to go and who to team up with?
I think it's too easy, Daniel, nowadays. Yes, there is a grooming effort, definitely different Russian individuals with foreign languages, with the support of AI tools nowadays. They try to reach out to impressionable young men, usually in the West, let's put it this way. And quite often, and again, this has been going on for more than a decade, young Russian women are utilized as effectively honey traps for these individuals. Because unfortunately, quite a few men in the West, they dream about Slavic wives. They think they're going to cook for them. They're not infested with feminism, apparently. And they're happy to go and to relieve that dream, so to speak, on the back of a fighting adventure. And then, as a gift, as a reward, you get a nice life in Russia where your wife will cook for you. So that happens online. That had been happening since 2014. I'm not saying that this was the case here, but certainly in cases of other fighters that I've been following from places such as Italy, Spain, France, that played a role. So yes, there is grooming. And in a way, that resembles the grooming of ISIS. In ISIS, you had older fighters grooming the so-called brides, inverted commas, to come over. Here, the situation is slightly different. You've got attractive Russian females trying to lure Western men to come over and fight for Russia.
Do you have any idea of the scale of this? I mean, this sounds to me so completely anomalous. It's hard to believe there are very many, almost not enough to be worth the effort in grooming them.
In a way, yes, Daniel, but I think it's not, you don't only groom them for, let's say, frontline exploits. The grooming quite often actually entails them coming over and then being turned into PR machines, if you like, or people who just spread disinformation. And that happened. That had been happening on a couple of occasions, again, for more than a decade. So the effort is larger. Yes, Russians recognize that getting the fighters from the West, I don't think it's cost effective, and they don't think it's cost effective, but it might be cost effective to get someone who will actually then beam propaganda back into the country where they're from. That, again, might not have been the case here, but there are plenty of cases where they've been turned into kind of, mini stars of the local disinformation scenes in countries, somewhere in Western Europe. So I think, yes, the effort definitely is there. It's scattershot, but sometimes you can get good results from the Russian point of view.
And finally, is there anything we can do about it, or is this just something to note and feel sad about?
I think to some extent the fact that the numbers from the UK were very, very, very low, that means that there isn't, you don't need a major policy change. I think there was some confusion early in 2022 when the government was encouraging people to go and join the Ukrainian side when it was kind of illegal to do that, and then was caught a bit flat-footed saying, oops, if you go on the Russian side, what do we do then? So I don't think it calls for a major policy issue. But again, you have to approach it, as much as you fight disinformation from Russia, you have to approach these individuals as potential issues there. So that's not a terrorism threat, really, these individuals, or extremism threat. They are a disinformation issue for sometimes other agencies or other elements of the government to deal with.
Well, that was Kacper Rekawek, Senior Research Fellow, International Centre for Counter-Terrorism, on that extraordinary item, actually. Thank you very much indeed, Kacper. After the news, we'll go across the Atlantic. We're going to speak to the Mayor of Oklahoma City, who's ready to tell us how more unity can be achieved in American politics. But first, we're going to have headlines, and they're going to be with Will Hobbs.